Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Max Durbus Realtors has been providing commercial and industrial real estate services to its clients for nearly 100 years. Since 1934, Max Durbus has been locally owned and operated throughout the greater New Orleans area, including the North Shore, Hammond, and even the Mississippi Gulf Coast and beyond. We focus on your commercial real estate needs so you don't have to. More information is available at 504-733-4555.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. It's the holidays. I hope everybody got their Christmas present they wanted, and Happy New Year to you as well. Hey, I don't know if you remember last year, we had some fun. We had a show that we were trying to think of ideas over the holidays, and we brought my man Frank Duffy back. You know who he is, the guy that's been to all the LSU and Saints games, and he was at the Omaha World Series. He reported he went to every pitch of every LSU in that thrilling 2023 national championship they run, but he's all over the place. But he also loves sports. He loves his hometown, New Orleans. He lives in Atlanta part-time. He lives here in the Patawba down in Latoya's neck of the woods over there in Jackson Square. But hey, last year we did something where we said, you know what, let's talk about some memories of the 70s. We went back and did a big thing on Archie Manning, Pistol Pete Maravich, of course, with the Jazz. We looked at those early Super Bowls that New Orleans hosted, you know, in Tulane Stadium, the great Steelers Vikings, for instance, and we looked through all those and then on there. And then we also did some Tulane LSU memories of the great rivalry they had when LSU lost to Tulane 3 out of 4 years from 79-82. And of course, who could forget that great win in 1973 when Tulane beat LSU 14-0 after 25 years of being in the barren desert losing to the Tigers. Just some great memories. So we said, hey, you know what, let's do this again and let's come up with something different. And you know, we decided to talk about, there's so many characters from the city of New Orleans, and it's not just sports, but there's a lot of them in the sports world. But we're also going to just talk about the characters we grew up with and things like that, and maybe touch on some fun commercials and you know, things like, you know, Hank Stram. What a character he was as a head coach for the Saints. He made his name as the head coach of the Chiefs, winning a Super Bowl. He came to New Orleans, made New Orleans his hometown till he died, lived across the lake. Hank Stram is one of the greats when you talk about characters. And you know, let's talk about the guy that did the most for the city probably in the terms of sports. There's no New Orleans Saints without Dave Dixon. There's no Superdome without Dave Dixon. There's probably no USFL without Dave Dixon. This guy was a visionary, and Dave Dixon was not only that, but he was a character as well. We're going to get into him. Billy Kilmer, man. The guy was out drinking every night before games, and he'd still get you, you know, maybe not a W every time, but he still played well. Some guys can handle it, and Billy Kilmer was certainly one of them. How about our more recent, the Cajun Cannon? Come on, baby. That's a character. We love him. I got to work with him, and I knew him in Atlanta really well. Got to work. He's a character. We're going to get into that. And not even just sports. How about Mr. Popeye's Fried Chicken, Al Copeland? Yes. Look at that. Look, you just look at that, and it screams character. You know, he rode power boats, cigarette boats, and he started Popeyes. I mean, we got so many of them from New Orleans, and even a guy that came up with the word squirrels, calling the fan squirrels. Buddy Deliberto, of course, we got to talk about him. Hap Glaudy, if you're old and dirt like me, you're going to know who that is. We're going to get into all of them, man. We might even get into Angela and Garland Robinette. Who knows? We're going to have some fun. And don't forget Al Scramuzza, Seafood City. Very, very pretty. No, we're going to get into it all. Frank Duffy and I are coming up next, and it's going to be an hour you won't forget, I promise, right here on Primetime Sports.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports, and I told you we were going to have fun today, and we definitely are. I remember last year, I said this in the open about how we had some fun with Pistol Pete and Archie Manning and the Super Bowl memories from the 70s when they used to be played in Tulane Stadium in the beginning of the Dome, and of course the great Tulane LSU memories. I didn't say this, though. That show got more responses on Facebook and Twitter and my text, and people saying, man, you brought me down memory lane on that one. It was like one of the best shows I've ever seen. You know, and Frank's not like, you know, having Karl Malone over here or, you know, Archie Manning, but he's entertaining. And so we're bringing him back for this next holiday special, and we're going to do Icons of New Orleans, the charismatic characters of the Crescent City. Yes, I'm pinning it, copywriting, already done. You can't have it. But bottom line, there's so many of them. And Frank Duffy, you might be one of those characters yourself. I'm sure I'm in that category. Ty Graffinini certainly is. There are plenty living.
Are, brother.
Bobby Hebert, we'll get to him. There's some living characters, but I've never had a list. I'm going to say this because I tell you, in 8 years of doing this show, I've never had notes in front of me, ever. All this is scribbled names because I don't want to leave any of them out because we just started spitballing, right, and brainstorming last night, and all of a sudden I thought we might have 10 and we have like 50. So I was like, so.
Well, that's our city, man. It's a city of characters. That's what we are. That's what we do. That's how we roll. And they are so memorable.
It makes it special, very much so. But anyway, let me say this. You can't start a sports show, which is sports and entertainment, without starting with your characters, with the number one character. I think there's no secret who that might be.
Buddy D, baby.
Buddy D. Buddy Diliberto is just, when I was a kid, he was a news guy on TV, a sports guy. But he was with Allie Gifford, you know, and then he became this legend on the radio because he just didn't care what he said. And he's kind of the guy with the ain'ts. He's famous for this. Hey, put bags on your head. This team's so bad.
Absolutely. And you know, the squirrels and, you know, Omar the tent making and all the magic carpet rides. And Buddy said, look, if they ever make the Super Bowl, I'm going to go down Canal Street wearing a red dress. And, of course, after he passed, if we did go to the Super Bowl, there was like 3,000 people in red dresses going down. Including Bobby Hebert, right?
Absolutely, man. And this is his famous dress stuff right here. You say it, it becomes it on air.
Well, I remember going back to when I was really young, and you would watch From the Press Box, which was the show before Monday Night Football. So you had the iconic Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford and Dandy Don, but you had Buddy in that half hour before that, right? And I'll never forget, he'd always come on and he goes, official New Orleans Saints, Longine Whitnow, official New Orleans Saints wristwatches, and then won by Joe Fetterspiel and Alois Grooms. I mean, it was just priceless, and you just couldn't wait to get on with Buddy because you didn't know what was going to come out out his mouth, and you didn't know how it was going to come out.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy with him. Maybe say I'm glad you did the accent because he had marbles in his mouth.
Oh, absolutely.
But he had New Orleans marbles in his mouth.
Yes, he did.
And he was kind of the precursor to talking about like what Scott Van Pelt does with the bad beats.
Oh, yeah.
And with Stanford Steve. He was always like, hey, it's not as close to the experts. I mean, he was openly talking about it. He said, hey, I'm sorry I'm late coming back from break. My bookie he kept me on hold. You know, so he flat out, there he is with Allie Gifford and young Bob Breck, and then Jack Klugman because they had the I couple on that channel. But I think that was the Photoshopping before Photoshop was Photoshopping. But
welcome back to WWL, and I just got off the phone with Black Cat Lacombe out at the fairgrounds, and I got my own parlay down today.
You know, I remember when he died, I was an agent, and I was doing a Kentucky-Kansas game. I'll never forget. I was in Lexington, and it was snowing that day, and it would have been like 2005-ish or 6, whatever that year was. And I remember where I was. I got the news. I literally broke down and cried.
Crazy.
I was in a driveway picking up a friend to go to the game. I was recruiting several of the players in those teams, and I remember it was a day, and it was weird because his son was on my show, who was the handicapper
at the fairgrounds.
At the fairgrounds, and he was. It just felt the vibe of him. I felt Buddy in a different way because I didn't know Buddy personally. I had met him because I was a guest on WWL shows when Corey Johnson was there. I'd go to the studio and I was like in awe of this legend. I know he was a goofball, but he was our goofball.
Oh no, he was. And look, he was an icon, and they knew him around the country. I mean, people like all of our buddies that when we lived in Atlanta, they would all talk about that. 790 Zone, 680 Fan. They would all cite Buddy Diliberto. I mean, he was the godfather of New Orleans sports.
Well, Go ahead.
Well, no, you know, the thing that I remember is when he passed, you know, WWL did a wonderful tribute to him, like an audio tribute.
Yeah.
And I teared up listening to it. I mean, it was such of our youth, and like I said, not only on radio, because that's eventually where he went, but all those days as a telecaster on television. But I mean, that From the Press Box show, you talk about a time capsule of the 1970s of New Orleans. I mean, from Joe Gimelli's suits on there. I mean, it's nonstop.
You have to be over 50 to understand the Joe Gimelli reference. The Saints players got suits after they had a good game.
Absolutely, the Longines Whitnall, baby.
Longines Whitnall, Adlers. But here's the thing, Buddy D, we grew up, we saw a shot of him Channel 8. I remember him mostly from WDSU, Channel 6.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's back then. You notice a lot of the news and sports guys switch channels a lot. Like here, I don't remember many. I know Juan Kincaid went from WWL to Fox 8. But it's
rare
back
around
then,
here, But
back then it was popping all over. Yeah, you say, get a free agent deal. You give me 22,000 instead of 21. All right, I'm in. You know, it's like, oh wait, he was on 6 last week. Okay, what's up right here? But there was a lot of that. By the way, WDSU, they're celebrating their 75th year. I saw a tribute on them, and I know WWL just did a big thing. So we are lucky. We've had some really strong local broadcasts on sports and news and
great personalities.
Yeah,
incredible personalities. I mean, I don't know if you want to get off of Buddy.
We're going in on it because the precursor to Buddy was Hap Cloudy, and so you probably have to be almost 60 to know what I'm talking about here. But there's some of you old timers watching, and I know you know.
King Edward Cigar Time, and we were just joking about this. I just had lunch over at the Bienville Club.
Even better, wait, this picture. Let's see. This guy on the right is even more interesting looking than Hap. Hap's on the left. The dude on the right, I hope he's still alive, and if you're alive, call me because you're going to be on the show next week because that is a character and a half right there. But go ahead with your
Well, no, I was just going to say Hap Gallardi, the King Edward Cigar Time, that goes back
You went
forever.
to the Bienville Club?
But I just went to the Bienville Club.
You must be rich.
No, I'm not rich. I'm just well connected.
Yeah.
But we just had our lunch, and darned if it didn't come up about Hap Gallardi. We were talking to some Jesuit guys at the table, and I said, as Hap would say, Jesuits.
The Jesuits. Don Westbrook in that picture.
Look
at that. I got some other memories for you. We're going to pop in because I just saw that, and there was a shot we're going to talk about in a second. But my Hap Cloudy memory is this. He also bet, and he made no bones. He's taking the bet on air, and I was too young to realize. My dad like, what do you do? I said, he's betting on a game on air. His bookie called him back. I'm like, what? And that's how it was.
The greatest one time when he was doing a report about Wimbledon, he goes, and today at Wimbledon, John Borg done 1 straight sets.
Well, he butchered. I know there's a running back named Herschel Walker when he was a freshman, and the footage looked like it was from 1820. It was like they got this thoroughbred over there in Athens, Georgia, and you should see him running. I'm a kid. I'm like trying to figure out what's up. What am I looking at?
And it's not Georgia, it's Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia. He had that accent. Hap Gallardi. I mean, it doesn't stop there, man. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
I mean, let's just stay in the sport and news. Yeah. Well, let's just say news because I saw a picture, and we have one. It's 4 of them, and Hap Gallardi's in this picture, but it's with Angela Hill and her on-air romance with Garland Robinette, who every woman from 15 to 75 wanted to spend a weekend in a desert island with him. That's him in the front. I got.
Well, it was that hair, brother. It was that hair.
The hair, man.
And
the guy in the end, Al Duckworth.
Absolutely, Al Duckworth, man.
Al Duckworth and Nash Roberts.
It was before Nash made the move, remember?
Shared time.
Absolutely,
yeah, that's right. Made the move. But these first 2 here, that was the
hottest couple. Absolutely,
They were the
it couple in New Orleans. And the funny thing was, all of our moms were talking about, well, Angela's got a crush on Garland, and you could hear it. I mean, it was a big stuff back
then. So true. And then ironically, later in their years, they both went from TV to WWL radio.
Correct,
which maybe one day we'll be doing together.
Ian, you hear that, Ian?
Yeah, when you're not as, the face doesn't look right for TV anymore. You got to go to radio, right? I mean,
brother, for 63 we hold it on. You're 60. I'm 63.
I'm not 60.
58.
58 is not 60.
I hit 63 today. I give up.
All right, happy birthday. That's right. Man. It is the birthday boy. I'm gonna have to pull the list out.
Let's stay on one more. Wayne Mack.
No, I got it. That's why I was pulling out. Wayne Mack. No, Wayne Mack and Bob Krieger. No, these two.
Let me tell you, when you get in a movie and star with the Three Stooges in a movie, You've done something.
I think I have a shot of him being Goofy in a thing. That's Wayne Mack. Yeah, there you go. That's Goofy.
McNutt.
That's Goofy early Wayne Mack.
Yep.
But he was the voice of the Saints for a while.
Absolutely.
And then, there's Goofy. There's two Wayne Macks, and they're on WDSU. We need some more promotions like that these days.
And I think he did Tulane for a while.
And that's the Wayne Mack I know.
Him and I know we wasn't going to say Bruce Miller because we probably don't have pictures of him. But Bruce Miller also was on Tulane on old WSMB way back in the day. But Wayne Mack was like I said, he was in with the Three Stooges when they shot that movie. He was like one of the old desperados. You see him with the mustache. But he did a lot of comedy back.
He would walk around New Orleans. I remember being a kid. Anybody when you're 10. And you see guy, he's just a regular dude like you and I.
Though, man.
But no, I would see him walking. I'm like, Mom, I just saw Wayne Mack on the street like it was the President of the United States. She's like, so what? I'm like, it's Wayne Mack. And this guy right here, Bob Krieger, the mouse.
Oh, Bob
That's
Krieger,
how I remember.
baby.
He would eat at Compagno's. And that's another guy. I'm like, that's Bob Krieger sitting next to us, Mom. She'd be like, who cares? I'd be like, it's
Channel
Bob.
8, man. Channel 8.
His grandson or his nephew or somebody's on Fox 8 now. But these classic old New Orleans dudes, and I know if you're under 40, you're like,
you're going to have to YouTube this.
Yeah, you're going to have to YouTube, but we're going to get to y'all later. We got Bobby, we're going to bring Ditka, and then you better be at least 30, because you're not going to get any of the show. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm not flashing back to, the 28-year-old on Channel 8. But hey, that's some of the media. But hey, before I get out of the media, Ronnie Virgins. Now, Ronnie, you would know, because you are 5 years older.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't look a day over 8 years older than that. But Ronnie Virgins is this guy that I don't know a ton about except what I've heard. So tell me about why this guy's legendary.
Well, Ronnie was classic.
First of all, he's got the name Ronnie. That starts.
Well, no kidding. Ronnie.
Where's Ricky? Where you at? Where's Ronnie?
That's like Tammy. That's like my cousin Ronnie Rapp.
Yeah.
From Brother Martin.
Yeah.
But no, look. Ronnie Virgins. What was awesome about him was.
I love this guy.
Man About Town. He did a lot of those little vignettes. But the greatest thing about Ronnie Virgins was the voice.
Yeah.
At the fairgrounds. I mean, he just had that New Orleans sort of.
I can't believe we left off Frank Davis.
Man.
All of a sudden.
I was just about to say that.
Frank Davis.
Frank Davis and Ronnie, they were cut from that same cloth that would do those little vignettes. Those little things about New Orleans that make it so special that we love about it.
The vignettes.
That's our memories, right? He did one. I'm telling you, if you folks out there, you've got to YouTube this. It was about City Parks, the cemetery out there. It was one of the most beautiful and poignant things I've ever heard. He also did one when the fairgrounds, when it burned, he did one that day. And I'm telling you, if you're a New Orleanian, your eyes would mist up on the way that he described losing something that's important to us. I love the Facebook page, Ain't There No More.
No, it's the best.
And it's so true. We just hold on to our things.
K&B ain't there no more.
No, darling. Cress ain't there no more.
Where's Cress? Where did Cress go?
Where did Mackenzie? If I'd kill for Mackenzie's turtle right now, man. I'd kill for
Mackenzie was better when you were 12. When you're 63, it's like,
brother, there was just something special about a king cake that only had granulated sugar on it and half a maraschino cherry.
Right.
All this fancy stuff. Now, look, hey, Manny Randazzo's, I love you. I'm going to be out there standing in line at 4 o'clock on January 6th morning. But there was something about that racetrack French bread oval at Mackenzie's with the sugar and just a half a cherry. Dude, they only gave you one cherry. They cut it in half.
Yeah, they cut it in half. It's like, what are you saving cherries for around here? I mean, the baby, I choked on the baby at Carlton Presbyterian. If you got the baby, you had to buy the next king cake. And I'm like, I choked on the baby. I didn't get the baby. I can't use it as an ornament. So we had to get the king cake.
I got a workers' comp claim.
My mom said you don't get the baby 2 days in a row. We ain't buying 2 in a row. She said 1 time a season. I said, Mom, she goes, you looking for the baby?
Your mom was a saint.
Yeah, she was.
She was
no
awesome.
doubt about it. Hey, we have some characters as musicians and entertainers. And before we get to musicians, because the entertainer, we got to go Chris Owens. I know this is a Catholic station, but Chris Owens was like I wouldn't like the strippers these days are like strippers. This is more like burlesque, right?
She never aged.
Well,
we got older and she looked. Well, she acted the same. I said looked the same.
Yeah, she acted the same, but she kept the figure in there.
She just passed only a couple years ago.
Yeah, she did. I mean, that's just New Orleans. Let's say this is sports and entertainment.
And by the way, a lot of philanthropic work.
Yeah,
She
a lot
did
of stuff.
a lot of philanthropic work, especially in the quarter.
Yeah, I know what you mean with quotations. Philanthropic. All right, okay. You got to catch his laughter, man. Yeah, that got you. But musicians, I mean, there's two that come to my mind immediately, and we're not talking Harry Connick Jr. He's great, but that's for youngsters. Al Hirt, Pete Fountain.
Absolutely, man.
Al Hirt playing at the Saints games as a kid. Got a picture of him with Gumbo, the St. Bernard
One
dog.
of the first owners of the Saints. He was a minority owner.
Very minority.
With Meekum, yeah.
But I mean, this is Al Hirt. He was known nationwide.
Oh, absolutely.
That's him playing at Tulane Stadium in a Saints game, 80,000 seats. This is a guy, when I was pulling pictures, I said, this is a guy I really would love to have met.
No kidding. I would have loved to have had a cocktail with him.
Look at Tiger Rag right there.
Absolutely. And the sad thing was, when he was riding in Bacchus one year, he got hit in the mouth with a brick, and he was never the same after that. It totally changed his trumpet playing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, up until that point, I mean, probably if you would count the number of times that he and Pete Fountain were on a Johnny Carson show,
right,
it had to be 30, 40 times.
Well, and Doc Severinsen was Johnny's guy, and Doc spent a lot of time with those guys.
Absolutely.
Pete Fountain, got to go there too. That's a Pete Fountain before I knew Pete Fountain. That's probably his early days. I mean, as the older guy, yeah, those glasses and, just one of these icons I grew up with. And I know if you're older, or even not that old, you know who Pete Fountain is.
Well, my cousin Pat Bezzetta, his father-in-law was the security, NOPD security for Pete, all those half-assed marching clubs that they did all the way through on Carnival. And he was so iconic, and of course in the later years he had to be on his seat in the trolley as the streetcar as it was going by, and the reverence that people had for him. And one of the greatest joys that my son had when he was 13, him and his cousin, who were both 13, got to be the banner holders for the parade, going from, they start over at Commanders where they have their bourbon milk punches and then make their way into the quarter.
The half-fast marching club?
Now for a 13-year-old boy walking right on the side of Pete Fountain, he's playing a clarinet, and they're walking down Bourbon Street for the very first time. It's a learning experience all across the board.
That might be like when I was in the green room at Jed's University Inn and I saw the lead singer for The Cold in an act I should not have seen her in. And I'm like 13. I said, I guess I'm walking out. I'm just here to clean up the place.
I'm changed now.
I'm cleaning up the place. Yeah, I was like, hold on. What did I just see?
I got to tell you a great story, though, about Pete. He was so kind to my son and our cousin that when they went, Officer Harold Hand, brought them in the squad car and dropped Pete off at his house after the parade.
Oh, yeah.
And Pete brought him in and said, they had him and they had like a little bit of king cake and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
He was sitting there, and Pete was showing them all of his keepsakes and stuff. They said both those boys were mesmerized for an hour and a half.
Wow.
And Sean came back with like, a couple of old Mardi Gras hats that Pete was giving them all some,
yeah, right on. Yeah.
It was so cool. Sean to this day still talks about how it was so cool to meet Pete.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say, we don't have pictures of this, but we got to be the only, this is New Orleans. Our coroner for 30 years was also the trumpet player, Frank Minyard.
Absolutely.
And then our district attorney for 40 years, Harry Connick Sr., more famous than in this city at least than Harry Connick Jr., who he spawned. But these are guys that all were musicians as well. And they were like some of our top political guys. There's Harry. There's Harry.
Contours, man. And Dr. Minyard, it's a great book.
There is with
if you ever get it, if you ever get the book 9 Lives, it was written about post-Katrina by Baum is the author's name, and they profiled 9 lives of New Orleanians and how they were able to go through the storm and survive after. And Dr. Minyard was one of the 9 that they chronicled. Fascinating. And again, he would go down to the clubs. He'd go down to the Coronet Club and play and at all hours of the night. Because look, he was on call. And said he used to joke, instead of be sitting there in the office waiting for the phone to ring, I'm going to be here. Had his buzzer. He's out there playing trumpet. Only in New Orleans.
I mean, for real.
Only in New Orleans.
You live here your whole life. You sometimes take things for granted, right? It took me leaving for 30 years.
You and I both.
to really appreciate what we have here. We both have that hunger to be back. I think that happens for any person that's from here. You do have some of the anger people that are just like, I'm done. It is what it is. We know we have warts, everybody, but you can call us a cesspool, but you better leave town if you're doing it, okay? Because I don't have anything to do with you. I know I'm kind of a cesspool right here, but it's my cesspool, it's his cesspool, it's our cesspool. Get your hell out.
And my cesspool's cooler than your cesspool, brother.
All right, we're going to have some fun before we go to break, because when we come back, we're going to do the character athletes and coaches. And Lord knows we got a lot of those too, from the Dicka to, Billy Kilmer. We're going to talk about a lot of those cats as well, but we got to talk some commercials here. Because once again, if you go back, some of these names you'll know because they're still alive and doing commercials, but you didn't know them back in the day. Let's start with Ronnie Lamarck. Ronnie Lamarck's first wife wanted to kill him. Okay, Ronnie, I love you. I talked to you last night. He prayed with me last night. I love him. And he was also on America's Got Talent. He's a singer. He sang a Christmas song on this show 3 different times.
I saw him at Jazz Fest.
Jazz Fest, right.
Saw him at Jazz Fest.
And then he had these commercials. Now, that's more recent, Ronnie. He's bridging the gap.
Oh, bridging the gap, baby, way back
between the West Bank and the East Bank and maybe even to the North Shore. Who knows? He's bridging it everywhere.
But my favorite song Ronnie did was singing about Risen Star at the Preakness. I mean, you can't beat that.
Well, that horse
man.
at the Preakness,
Risen Star.
Victory?
Well, Preakness, he won the Preakness, won the Belmont, came in second at the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, that's him. And Louis Roussel obviously was manager. This is like 1988.
88 was
and Ronnie Lamarck was part owner of that horse, and legendary stuff. I mean, this guy goes back. These commercials we used to think were a little cheesy back in the day. Now they're endearing. And there's no more endearing commercial than the first guy that did the legal commercials, because we used to make fun of Morris Bart. Morris, I know you watch the show. I love you. But back in the day, look at this Morris Bart.
His bank account ain't having a problem because he's on your side,
that's my
brother.
point. He's been copied, imitated. Imitations is the purest form of flattery, and people have. They used to make fun of him for doing these. My favorite commercial is when the girl gets in the accident. Obviously, she's faking, but she's got a script. But she goes, and the cop comes and says, "What's wrong?" She goes, "Well, I got a catch in my neck, and I feel a little dizzy." It's just perfect. It's classic. It's us.
I ran into Morris Bart at Rocco's in Omaha when we were drinking the shots, when we were doing all the LSU shots.
He paid for a round, right? I mean, at least I know Ty Gray spent $88,000.
Ty Graves went and just chunked a big old. They were still bringing the trays out.
And then
Gordon McCurdy went in. He bought some. I'm not going to say how much Morris bought, but he bought rounds for us, and it was a lot of fun, man.
He did? For real?
Yeah.
Like one round. Okay, wink, wink. I got it. All right, Morris, we got you. No,
just
Morris.
In case he becomes a sponsor.
One call, that's all. Morris is my guy. I love him. And, Morris, I am looking for a new lawyer now on this show. Since Gordon says, hey, I'm only in Baton Rouge now. Gordon's in every billboard from Baton Rouge to Houston. Every one. He's like, hey, man, I'm not doing New Orleans anymore. I'm like,
okay.
Whatever. And then we got to go to the legend of all legends, Al Scramuzza.
Oh, man, the best.
Seafood City.
Very pretty.
Very pretty.
Very pretty.
He had another one, Al Scramuzza.
Never has a blue tuxedo looked so good.
Look at this cat. How do you not love this guy? And he's in his 90s now, still kicking it, still alert.
Down in St. Bernard.
Look at him, man.
And here was a great part. They did that commercial where they all wave at the end and the one guy waves the other way.
This is early Al. This is before I knew what he looked like.
That's when you would go down to get the crawfish.
He stole my favorite product of all time, crawfish. I mean, like if I have to die, I want 10 pounds of crawfish, and Al, I want you to present it to me. But here, I met Al. This is a true story. I met him a few years ago at one of those pre-Jazz Fest things over at Central City Barbecue. And the Honey Island Swamp Band, which they've been on the show, they're friends. They were playing. Al walked in, and I swear to God, I said, dude, Al. I said, I'm like hugging him, he's like, oh man, I like being hugged, but I don't know you. So, no, I said, I've interviewed Michael Jordan, I've interviewed LeBron James, I've interviewed them all. I said, this is a better moment for me. He goes, who are those guys? I said, exactly. I said, Al, for me, as a kid growing up here, I mean, you're legendary.
They must sell crawfish in Metri.
Yeah, I love he ran for office. I didn't even know that. There's pictures of him running for office. I mean, I'm not sure I want him representing, but I mean, why not?
Hey, man.
Bring him in.
You go back to all of them.
Can't hurt.
24, Tulane, Rosenberg.
Oh, don't think I don't have that ready.
Miller the Killer.
Let's do it together.
Man.
Rosenbergs, 1825. Tulane. Put the thing up. We got Rosenberg's. We got the cute little girl. Rosenberg's is like.
And Miller the Killer, man. Miller.
1825.
Yeah, you got me.
I knew. I was like, he's got 24.
Miller the Killer.
I don't know Miller the Killer, but this one. Let me say one thing about it. I'll be in any town across the country, and it's a fact. If they're within 10 years of me, and I'll say, you're from New Orleans, I'd say, and I'll say, we'll see, Rosenberg. And in a bar or a restaurant, they'll start singing it out loud, and people like thinking we're on Tourette's or something.
It's like the old code in World War II. If you didn't know Tinker's the Ever's the chance, you got shot.
Yeah, you got to know.
You got greased.
You're a German. Get out. Two more commercials, real quick, because I only got one shot. The chairman, this picture stinks, but this guy was dressed as a chair, and we thought that was normal. Like he was a chair, and my producer's having a hard time finding it because it is that crazy.
I don't know why. It was the floral pattern, like behind him. He was like
floral is being very considerate. It was an ugly brown and orange combo. That were like, why are you advertising this color?
I think that was.
There he is.
Yeah, there it is.
He's matching his carpets.
That's right. I think that was run back during the S&S green stamps.
The more I look at that might actually be a picture. No, is he in front of a green screen? I'm not sure. But that's not a great shot. It's the best I could do in 2 minutes time. But also I do have, what's my other guy with the commercial? Let him have it.
Oh, yeah.
Let him have it.
Go to the credit man. Let him have it.
Let him have it. So this guy look at this cat. Look at this cat. That's real hair, I'm sure.
That's a rug Vince Manella would love to have.
Oh, my God. I thought about Vince Marinella in the shower the other day. I swear to God. Because Vince Marinella, if y'all don't know, killed his wife. I mean, just another day in New Orleans, right? And he left a trail of notes. Now, I remember thinking I just met Vince Marinella like weeks before, and I was doing preseason games with Brando. Saints did I'm here with Archie Manning. We got Jaworski, and I'm like, and he comes up to me, and these are legends. I'm like peon. He goes, man, I watch your show every week. And I said, my show's on, not here. What are you watching on? Because Fox Sports Net South stopped at the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
So I knew we got 10 states covered. We weren't watching it.
He was setting the alibi up.
Yeah, he set the alibi. Swear to God. You know what we're talking. And my buddy's one of the prosecutors. My very close friend Tommy Block.
Lord.
I said, man, please tell me. Vince
Say
is not guilty.
So, Joe.
No, I said he's not guilty, and he sent me 3 words: guilty as, you know, the last one, F exclamation. I'm like, no. Then I saw his mugshot, and I'm not making fun. I mean, he's dead now, but I feel bad. But you know, I didn't know really. I'm not a big rug guy. I know I look like I have a toupee. I'm the only guy on TV that looks like he has a toupee, but this is my real hair. Swear to God, it's like. At least I have hair, but it's not a toupee. But the fact is, I must have bad hair because he had a bad toupee, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, it could be real. And then I saw him his prison shot, and it was like all white and no hair at all on the top. I'm like,
who is that?
I said, don't go to prison because that ages you fast. I started like stopping at red lights. I was like, I don't want to go to prison.
That's a cautionary tale.
It was a cautionary tale. You're laughing so much. The inside of his glasses are fogging up over here. I've never seen that on my show. The inside of his glasses are fogging up. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. And this is just 2 dudes talking stuff. I don't know what we're doing. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about the athletes and coaches. You know they are. Jim Mora. Playoffs. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. All that. Bobby Hebert, Mike Ditka. You know, all of them. We even got some go back. So we're going to come back with that.
The fix is on.
Yeah. Forget about it. We'll see you back here on Primetime Sports.
Inspired by the culture and spirit of New Orleans, the contemporary abstract and figurative work of Tony Mose and the urban expressionist art and jewelry of Tracy Mose are now on display and available at Esom Art Galleries. Esom Art Galleries are artist-owned and are located in Uptown New Orleans on Magazine Street and on Royal Street in the heart of the French Quarter. Esom Art Galleries, inspiration from the soul of New Orleans.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. Hey, man, Christmas was yesterday, or maybe it was New Year's was yesterday, but still, you know this holidays, right? You got that hard-to-please person that might not have been happy with their gift, or if you forgot that someone special, well, you know, all these stores that are underwriters, if you can support them, because they're still open all through the holidays, starting right here with Sotra. You know, Sotra, I told you, they have that, well, let's go to Jillian Mack then, right there. Significant art by nationally and internationally renowned artists for serious collectors. This is not the BS stuff. This is the serious stuff. Like when you go in there, it's a difference. And there's even Santa shop in there looking at his picture, his own picture. He's like, Santa loves himself. But I'm going to tell you what, the first time I walked in there was amazing. Elysian, which is located inside of Sotra. All this is a 3,900 block of magazine, by the way, between Napoleon and Louisiana. More specifically, between, say, Constantinople and General Taylor. That's only if you're uptown, you'll know that. But, you know, these are funky designs. They're, you know, sophisticated clothing and shoes and bags made from Turkish textiles. Very cool stuff. And, of course, Sotra, interior designer Grace Canner, you know, she hand selects and curates all the stuff in her store, every object. She does it herself, and the bedding is one of Sotra's specialties. But Grace also offers finishing touches for your home, gifts for that hard-to-please person like my man Frank Duffy. I lie, Frank's easy to please. Frank's like, just give me a cup of coffee, let me watch y'all, for real. And then, you know, in your life. And then right now, that holiday gift choices are sure to delight and inspire, just like Frank does for me in this segment. Get out there to Esam, those are our good friends, that art gallery right there. Jillian Mack, Task Performance, Sotra, and Elysian. They're all in the same block. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere but the 3,900 block of magazine. You got all 5 of them.
And I'm sneaking back a look on some of those NOLA shirts with our boy Billy Shell. You can't beat them.
Yeah, Billy Shell, by the way. Let's just get into that.
You cannot beat them.
Yeah, that's Jillian Mack. Some shots there. You know, I mean, it's great. But yeah, Billy Shell's got these shirts. We're going to give Frank one. We gave last week. We gave it to Coach Summerall from Tulane, the new head coach. He was ecstatic. He's like, oh my God, I love Task. And now they have the NOLA shirts. You go to NOLAshirts.com. And they got the cool little fleur-de-lis.
Love the emblem.
Yeah, I'll hold it up now.
Yeah, it is
well, no,
awesome.
I'll give it to you now, Frank. Here, let's do it since we're doing it. We'll give it to you now. Look how cool this is. I ain't
How cool
joking.
is that, man? Got that NOLA? I love it.
Yeah, it's backwards on TV. Okay, back over here. Yeah, there you go.
Love it.
That little fleur-de-lis, it says NOLA. And this is the Task material, though, man. I mean, it feels so good. I mean, this is great.
Thank you, brother.
Well, I'm going to keep this myself. There you go. Billy Shell.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you, baby.
Wants all the people out there, if you're looking for gifts and, you know, post, even birthday present, whatever, or for yourself. They're phenomenal. Absolutely. They got all colors and it's great. But let me go back because I enjoyed that first segment.
That was fun.
But we didn't really get into the athletes or coaches. Nope. We were just doing the characters that are on TV, that do other stuff, you know, the entertainers and the people like Morris Bart and Ryan Lamarck. God love you. Love these guys. But
the celebrities.
Now we're going to go to Saints players, Saints coaches, others. And before we start them all, let me go with my favorite, because I got to tell you, I still consider Popeye's fried chicken to be real restaurant food. I don't care. You call it fast food you want. I love Popeyes.
Al Copeland, man.
Sue me. Look at this cat. You talk about characters in New Orleans. People said you can't do that. And we said, you can if you're Al Copeland.
Absolutely, man. Nothing. I tell you what, they could see his yard from space at Christmas
time. One of my best friends from high school is a Jewish fellow by the name of Stephen Klein. He lived right next door to Al Copeland. Jewish people like to celebrate Hanukkah, but he's not about Christmas too. But to get home from school, he had to wait like an hour and a half
just
because the traffic at the Christmas lights. Al Copeland makes Chevy Chase in Vacation or Christmas Vacation look like he has one little sparkler up.
With the meter that's like
it's crazy.
Going around. It's crazy.
Al Copeland was a cigarette boat racer. Mm-hmm. He didn't jump on little cigarettes. He is a boat. And like right there. And he was the dude. You could call him cheesy.
But you know what?
But he was great.
You know what?
He's New Orleans.
True entrepreneur. He had like 3 or 4 failures. It was called Chicken on the Run before he opened up Popeyes. And he said, you know what? Instead of just doing regular chicken, I'm going to do it the way us New Orleanians like it. And he put those spices in there, and the rest is history.
It's history because Al,
incredible.
You know, former Commander's Palace chef, Paul Prudhomme, the Cajun Craze hit when Paul Prudhomme brought it nationally to New York and blackened stuff and spicy stuff. Well, Al capitalized on that.
Correct.
And he made his heyday in New Orleans in the 70s, but he started branching out across the country and now the world.
Yep.
in the 80s. And then that was a perfect time because Cajun stuff, Justin Wilson was kind of going viral. And I mean, all these Cajun chefs, and now Cajun chefs are respected across the world.
Absolutely, as well
For
they
real.
should. As well
they should. So now we're going to go to some characters in sports. All right, there's a lot. We can start with. We know Bobby Hebert, the Cajun Cannon, all that. And we're going to get him in a second. I want to start with Hank Stram because Hank was the Super Bowl winning coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. One of the first coaches to get fully mic'd up during an entire Super Bowl.
Come on, boys. Let's matriculate down the field,
Matriculate down the field. But he came to New Orleans, and I'm talking, that's one of the best rugs I've ever seen. Like, he's got a rug on top of his head, but those Saints uniforms like that, I'll never forget, he drafted Chuck Muncie.
Absolutely. Thunder and
Tony
lightning.
Galbraith. He goes, we got thunder and we got lightning.
That's right.
But I'm going to give you the floor with Hank Stram, since you're my elder, and you knew.
Well, Hank Stram gave us hope.
Right.
It was the first time that us Saints fans
Yeah.
had actual hope. I mean, here was
Like a real coach.
Super Bowl winning coach coming to coach the Saints. And you know, you remember during that run, Archie, had that run with Tony Galbraith, Chuck Muncie, Wes Chandler. I don't know. I saw Henry Childs, the tight end.
All Pro Bowlers.
Great offense. And we came close. It was the first time we, I think, went it was like
7-9 and then 8-8.
Correct. And
Back to back.
And so we had hope, and then of course it fizzled, and we didn't get it back. We get a little bit of run with Bum, and then of course we got it back with another character.
But Archie Manning was the NFC Offensive Player of the Year.
79.
And that was Hank Stram's team.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Chuck Muncie and all those guys you mentioned, right?
Came very close, and still it took a while to get the elusive win. It took a drop punt to get that. But what Hank Stram was a real NFL coach, and he had talent to work with, because we had talent through the years, and some of these are the big characters we're talking about on those 60s and 70s teams. The one that we didn't have talent, we just never could put it together. Hank Stram put it together.
Yeah.
And those were really well coached teams, and they didn't have a lot of penalties. That was another good thing about Hank Stram teams. They played well within themselves, but he was absolutely a character. I loved him. Most people don't remember, but he was doing a lot of WWL and CBS.
He was classic. He was great.
Broadcasts. I mean, he was very good at that at color.
Yeah, he had that great.
He and Vern Lundquist.
That great voice, Vern Lundquist. I'm gonna say this, man. I mean, the guy won. I think it was Super Bowl III. I mean, maybe it was four.
Yep.
With the Chiefs over the Vikings.
Yep.
And just a legend. And he ended up staying in New Orleans till his death. He lived across the lake.
On North Shore, yeah.
Speaking of coaches, though, we got to go Ditka, because Ditka traded the entire draft for Ricky Williams. Okay, so Mike Ditka, obviously, speaking of Super Bowl winners, he had the most dominant, arguably, Super Bowl.
Agreed. 85
I'm glad my
Bears.
man Logan pulled this picture, because this is it. He traded the entire draft, which at the time I was like, maybe not a bad idea. Ricky Williams was that dominant. It didn't pan out.
They work out that way.
Yeah,
they work out that way.
Ricky liked weed, and he didn't like being
He didn't like practicing, and he didn't like working.
But he ended up with over 10,000 yards rushing.
Mostly from Miami, but yeah.
Right. But the fact is that Dick, his magic did not work quite as well here.
Well, I got a funny Ditka story. So after the Chicago Bears game one time, all of his Skrepniks and Jabowskis and all of them came down from Chicago to hang out with Dick, and we won the game. So he was having a celebratory cigar. He brought all of them into Mr. Benson's suite. And that was a huge no-no. They could not have cigars up there. And the reason I know this is my cousin Mike was an NOPD who was actually in charge of the Superdome suite. And he told me, he goes, Benson had to kick them all out one time. And there was literally a moment in time when we almost lost our coach prior to him actually
Look at the name in the prompt. Have you ever heard of Eric Myron? That's Ricky Williams' name now, apparently. Eric Myron. What?
I didn't know that.
Well, I know her. I went to college with Ricky's wife. Anyway, but moving forward on this, the Ditka thing. My favorite Ditka story is, be quick. Corey Johnson's like a young reporter, and he's like, and this is a well-known clip that SportsCenter has played a million times too. But it's in training camp, and he's all upset. He's just barking at the thing. He's barking. He's like, man, this is going wrong. Boom. He had media all around him. He's kind of sitting down, and Corey's like standing above him. And he goes, and Corey's with that little smart aleck, little glib thing. He goes, and he's like, and he looks down at him, And he goes, "Why are you so mad, Coach?" Go, "What do you care? What do you care? Who are you?"
I'm Corey Johnson.
Yeah, Coach. Why are you so mad? Well, it's just so like patronizing. I just had to
Corey,
laugh.
Man, Corey's great.
That's another character.
He is a character. Huh?
Boy, okay.
We got 2, 3 more shows.
Yeah, Todd Graffinini.
Todd.
The only guy I love, Todd. He's great, but. I go like I'll be in the bathroom at the Pelicans game, and I'm like, did we just lose the 20-point lead because we're still up by 12? And if you heard him, he'd be like, we're like down 20. I'm like, what's up?
I love our boy Graf. Hang 'em and bang 'em, baby.
Hang 'em and bang 'em.
Hang 'em and bang 'em.
When there's excitement, there's nobody better.
I love Graf, man.
But hey, let's go to Billy Kilmer, because I'm gonna tell you this.
Yeah,
Billy Kilmer, you're really not gonna remember unless you're old. But Billy Kilmer was a big-time quarterback that led the Redskins to the Super Bowl 7 against the Miami Dolphins. They didn't score an offense touchdown in that game, but they got there. But my point is, in New Orleans, and this is like Charlton Heston actually played them.
Number 1, the movie Number 1.
Number 1, but Billy Kilmer was, he don't look like he's all svelte or anything, right? But that dude was a legend among the ladies. Like, crystal blue eyes, and he could hang, he could outdrink anybody. He was out till the wee hours.
I heard there was many a night at the Lamplighter Club that thing got closed down by Billy Kilmer.
Yeah, he closed that deal too. He closed deals, is what I'm saying. He's a deal closer. Those guys, they perform on the field, off the field, they perform everywhere.
I know one thing, there was never an uglier pass than a Billy Kilmer pass. That thing fluttered.
Well, his passes off the field were apparently much better.
Yeah,
but the ones on the field,
caught.
fluttering like a duck. Boop, 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 boop. Oh my God, got him! It's coming down. They clean up on aisle 7. All right, moving forward. Danny Abramowitz,
another character.
As a slower white guy that had great hands, I was like, everybody's like, I'm Danny Abramowitz because he caught everything. He led the NFL in receptions one year.
Yeah. And we would never get on the highlights on Monday Night Football. And the one time that we actually got on the very first thing, he ran into the TV helmet and dented his helmet.
He ran smack into the big old TV cameras that used to be on the field. And this guy had another record. He had the most consecutive games with a catch, which is nothing now. Back then, they threw the ball 10 times a game.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
But he had like 126 in a row at one point. But the fact is, he and Archie Manning were greatest of friends all through that decade. They were both, they were 2 of the shining stars that we had on a team that didn't have many in the beginning. Going back, those old timers that came to the Saints as they were already Hall of Famer, basically, like a Doug Atkins from the Chicago Bears. He made his name. He came here.
Jim Taylor.
But Taylor was with the Packers, won 2 Super Bowls, LSU legend, won a title back in '58. But this guy Atkins right here, beast. And apparently the stories with Jim Atkins, Jim Taylor. Let me go ahead and throw Steve Stonebreaker in. A lot of people might remember his son, Mike Stonebreaker, who played a little bit with the Saints, but played for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
All Sweet Tan. They all ran in the circles.
Steve Stonebreaker. There you go. Stoney. That's Jim Taylor right there. Jim Taylor is a Louisiana legend, and I had him scheduled to be on the show right before he died, which is sad and there you go.
Our good buddy Mike Witzel's dad, Dave Witzel.
Dave Witzel is one of the greats. I think that's Stoney right there, right, Will?
Yes, number 37.
Yeah, his son was also a big-time legend.
Mike.
John Curtis, he stayed till he was 21 or so. But my now ex-wife was dating him. The reason he went to Notre Dame instead of LSU is because of her, actually. She was at Kentucky. Small little facts. In fact, when he signed, it said Michael is a big thing. All the other guys on the team put Michael only went to Notre Dame because Deborah's at Kentucky, which is close. And I'm laughing. I'm like, that is hilarious.
He just got elected into like one of the Hall of Famers just recently.
He should. I got a list, which is the first time in 8 years. You'll never see me have a list again, but there's so many. One person we all owe homage to is Dave Dixon.
Absolutely.
And you're going to have a story, because I'm going to just let people that are under 40 know what this dude's about. There's no New Orleans Saints team. You see that little structure of the dome? That was his creation, his vision. He said this city, which, by the way, if you weren't around in the 60s or 70s, was the crown jewel of the South.
It surely was.
There was no Houston beating it. There was no Atlanta beating it. Certainly was no Birmingham beating it, which they all are now, and Nashville. New Orleans was the place. And he said, we need a world class. That's Mayor Morial right there. There's Dixon in his older years. But Dave Dixon brought the Saints down along with business people from New Orleans, but he also got the dome going. Pretty much responsible for the USFL, for the
Breakers,
the Breakers and all that. So you have some stories. I know a friend of mine, Charlie Kaplinger, his dad was an architect, one of the guys of the Dome, and he said he had some great stories about him. But you know
well,
some.
No, it's just the thing about Dave Dixon was he was a visionary.
Right.
I mean, we would have never thought about this. And in fact, don't forget, even before the Saints, the NFL was coming down here playing all-star games.
Yeah.
I mean, so he was doing this way before it was fashionable. And you know, I think
by all-star games, what they used to do is play the Super Bowl champion would play a group of college all-stars.
Yes.
And that was a thing for a while. I remember that even when I was a little
kid. And that was a serious game.
Yeah.
I mean, they because back then the pros didn't make a lot.
There was
of
no
money.
opting out.
No.
There was no opting out. Oh, I got a toenail, I'm out.
And you know what it was? It was laying down the lumber to, hey, college boys, y'all getting ready to come into the league? Let me show you what the league's like. I mean, that's what that game was. It was a tough game. But yeah, I think Dave Dixon really was the sports godfather of New Orleans, really was. And you would not have the Superdome, you would not have the Saints, but you also had the Sugar Bowl as well. He was a big driving force. And my good buddy Jay Badd, who's on the Sugar Bowl committee, who I just had lunch with today, you know, they would all say what a driving force that Dave Dixon was. I mean, without him, you know, New Orleans is not a national city for sports. We don't have the Pelicans, we don't have the Saints. He was also behind the scenes. He was instrumental in getting the Jazz down here in the 70s as well.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
The Jazz played their first season splitting time between Loyola Fieldhouse, which sat about 30 people.
Where the old Buccaneers played in the ABA game.
The New Orleans Buccaneers, but also the Municipal Auditorium, which was the home, besides Gap Band concerts, all the royalty of New Orleans, the balls were there. So as a kid going to that first year, then the Dome opened, you know, for basketball the second year, and they played 4 years there before they moved to Utah and inexplicably kept the name. But the fact is this is a history lesson for us all. Dave Dixon needs to be revered, and his name, he's retired on that Dome, and a lot of people don't know who the heck he is. Yeah. But it's him and guys like Jim Finks, which is going to bring me to my next era, because we're talking about characters. We saw a lot of losing, Frank.
Yeah, we did.
The Saints from '67 to '86. A lot, 85 especially. A lot of losing. Like when we had a 5-9, when those days of 14-game, a 5-9 season. I remember, I've said this frequently, but I'm gonna say it again, throwing a parade on Broadway, because we won 5 games, y'all. It was 2, 3, 4 all the time. You know, it was one later that one.
And look, we got a good character before him. Bum Phillips was also a kind of a unique character, but Jim Finks bringing in Jim Mora.
Yeah.
Changed everything. And look, you got to give the credit to Tom Benson as well. I mean, it was the three of them, you know, the three Musketeers. But Jim Mora, he held no punches, man. He told you exactly
Still does. He's on WDSU.
I saw it the other day when he was
doing the
blasting
same thing.
Saints.
That's the famous
woulda, shoulda, coulda. Yeah.
And that's when we almost beat San Francisco, because we were winning an average of 11, 12 games a year. It was crazy. We lost 4 playoff games, but I'll always be appreciative of having wins and pride finally in having a team. But that whole era with him and Bobby Hebert and another Louisiana, Bobby played his entire career except for that time with the Falcons. Here, but you know, in Louisiana, Northwestern, South Lafourche, when they won a state championship, and he played for the Saints and gave us our first winning seasons. Bobby is the
fix is on. The fix is on.
Well, he's
the fact that he said that to Les Miles made him #1 in my book, because every Tiger fan was thinking exactly what Bobby was saying.
The 21-0 loss. Yeah, Bobby's in the report. Everybody knows him at WWL. He is the founding father of the Who Dat Nation. And Bobby is true legend. I'm going to say this. He's been on this show many times. I'm very appreciative of Bobby. I got to know him in Atlanta.
790 to Zone. You know, we were all buddies with all those guys.
No doubt. And I remember going to dinner with him, going to places like Bones in Atlanta, and he's like, he's making as much money as he ever made in his career, and it's like there was never a tab that he picked up. I love you, Bobby. Now you do. I get it, and I appreciate it. But that was funny. We're just joking. But we had fun, and Bobby is I come back here, and I'm like hearing him on the radio, and it's almost so like it's like home, and I'm like, oh my God, this is radio here, huh? But then I grew to love every part of it. I was like, this city is not the same with Bobby Hebert. We're not here.
I totally agree. And it was off-putting, because listen, I would listen to him on 790, and it killed me because when the week that the Saints would be playing the Falcons, he was using the word we. And it wasn't for the Saints. I'm like, I gotta get on the phone. I gotta talk to Bobby. Hey, you my paisan from Cutoff, man. What you doing saying we?
He changed that, thank goodness.
He did
He did change that. He is a hardcore. He says we Hokey all the time with us.
That's right.
With Saints. But that era, even like Hokey Gajon, I'm going to say this. Hokey's another
Hokey
one.
was great, man.
Entire
Good guy.
career, like Dalton Hilliard in Louisiana.
Yep.
LSU, Hokey, Jim Henderson.
Salt of the earth.
Jim Henderson is not what I call a character, but he is a legend for sure. Those two, Hokey replaced Archie Manning in the booth, which is not easy to do.
No.
And Deuce eventually replaced him. But Hokey is a guy that you look at him and you're like, this guy's got no speed. He's got, he's probably strong, but like, how's he a running back? And he just killed people at LSU and the Saints.
What a heart he ran with. It was incredible. And again, we lost him way too early.
I remember, man, it was right around when Will Smith went. I mean, it was sad that, we had legends falling right back to back there. But yeah, I mean, we can go back. I mean, I'm still laughing when your glasses were fogging up last segment because some of those commercials, we look back and we knew they were silly then, but now we look back like they let that stuff on air.
Oh man, dude! What I wouldn't do to watch Mr. Bingle dance along as the marionette one more time, man. Just as kids. I mean, we grew up with this. I mean, this is why we love this.
Frank,
place
you like
so
Carnival?
much.
Do you like Carnival?
Absolutely, I do.
I mean, you're about Carnival,
Absolutely.
right? I'm about Carnival too.
I'm not going to go skiing.
Well, I had my guest last week was Dickie Brennan. And
love Dickie.
Both and I have known Dickie for, I hate to even say it, probably half a century.
Yeah.
Something like that. Am I that old? Close to it. But my point is Dickie is another guy that's kind of like restaurant royalty here for sure. And his family has done a lot. But Dickie's parents, his uncle and his dad, Dick Brennan and Pip, they're two of the founders of Bacchus.
Absolutely.
It was their ideas on napkins that brought this guy, Phil Harris, who, by the way, even me, who I don't know, I'm old, but I don't remember him as an actor. All I remember him was King of Bacchus. And I know they had Danny Kaye, they had some bigger names, but there he is. And I collected those things. Bacchus started, I believe, in 69 or 70, right? Or 68, it was formed, and 69 was the first parade.
Yeah. Yep.
So he was the third or fourth king. And I'm like, I knew all the other ones, like Glenn Campbell, all these other big names, but I was like, who's Phil Harris?
Phil Harris was real good friends with Duke Wayne, John Wayne. And he was in a lot of John Wayne's movies.
I've heard of this John Wayne guy.
Yeah, and so you can't get more America. But he was such a New Orleanian. He loved to go out. In fact, when your boy Jackie Gleason came in to be the king in 1975. By the way, I can remember Tulane LSU games by the year, and I can remember who the king of Bacchus was by the year. But in 1975, Jackie Gleason came down. He and Phil Harris were out there playing golf at Metairie Country Club and New Orleans Country Club. So they loved life. And
did they have a beer cart near them?
I would think they did, brother.
Jackie Gleason, man, honeymooners.
Sweet
to the moon, Alice, to the moon. No, some great New Orleans memories. We're gonna have to do this every Christmas, man. We're gonna have to dig deep in the vault. Rusty Staub. And I know we've got a minute left, but Rusty Staub is the only player in Major League history that was a chef, but that hit 500 hits for 4 different teams.
Yeah.
Remarkable. The Tigers there, you saw the Expos. Of course, the Mets. He's well known. He became one of the greatest pinch hitters at the end of his career. Astros, played, I think, Giants too. But
and as Hap Gallardi would say, pride of Jesuits.
The pride of Jesuits. Will Clark is another guy. That's maybe not as fun-loving as him, but one of the great ones.
Can you believe we did an entire show on characters and even get to Sid Noel from Morgus? Morgus the Magnificent.
My 25-year-old, production assistant back there was saying, you're going to talk about Morgus. It's before my time, honestly. But I obviously know who Morgus is, so I wouldn't have a lot to add. But you watched it since you're much older than me.
I watched Morgus. I watched the first time it came out, and I watched the redo in the late 80s when we were in college. But Sid Noel did a night at the Orpheum exactly like 6 months before he passed away.
Morgus the Magnificent?
Morgus the Magnificent. He was Morgus Magnificent, but he did a night of what it was like to be Morgus. There had to be 3,000, 4,000 people in the Orpheum watching him on that night, and sadly passed away 6 months later.
Oh, my God.
But what a character for New Orleans as well, right?
Maybe one day we'll be doing a show about you. Frank Duffy, true character, the Renaissance man of New Orleans and Atlanta. We won't hold that part against him, but you know what? He's probably got the best of both worlds. He gets out of here when it's hot, comes back when he wants some fun. Hey, I want to thank Frank, and I want to thank everybody behind the scenes, because there's a lot of pictures being pulled, and I got to thank my man Logan for doing a lot of the heavy work on that. Of course, my producer, Will Hill. I want to wish everybody holidays. Danielle back there, and Alex, who gets us all the audio. And, man, there's so many people here, but I want to thank them all from the bottom of my heart. Jim Dotson, Ron Yeager, and everybody else. Stan the man. You're all part of this team, and I appreciate you very much. And you too, Frank Duffy.
My pleasure.
You got your shirt. Alrighty, hey, Desi, I'm still talking about you. I got him his gift certificate last show. So he's got the Mr. John's, and I love Shays de la Shays and all the good people at Task. So y'all have a good holiday, and go to 3900 Magazine Street and rack up that stuff. You probably get a discount this time of year. See ya.